Hi there, and welcome to Motivational Moments Live with me, Belinda Boadu, your host. Hi there, and welcome to Motivational Moments Live with me, Belinda Boadu, your host. If you are joining me for the very first time, I would like to warmly welcome you to what I believe is the 14th edition of our second season. And of course, if you are coming to join me, as you always do, I am so grateful to have you here with me once again. Before we delve into our exciting topic for today, let me tell you a little bit about Motivational Moments Live and what we're all about. Essentially, Motivational Moments Live, or MML for short, is part of Impact and Impact, which is in education, career and business consultancy, and part of that is Motivational Moments Live, all about bringing you inspiration, motivation, and every good thing you need to make a success out of your life. So now that you're all caught up and all up to date, let's get started. Today, I have one key topic to share with you, but we're breaking that down into 3 key segments. And those key segments are quite different, so get ready. And pretty much, let's get started. I'm keen to see your comments. I'm keen to hear, your thoughts about the things that I'm sharing. And please do make sure you tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to come on, because Motivational Moments Live is on. So today, the topic that we will be delving into is all about pressure. Okay? Pressure. So we're going to look at pressure from 3 different angles. We'll be looking at pressure that you kind of have to handle, pressures that come to you in life. We'll be looking at societal pressures, and we'll be looking at internal pressures. So first of all, we want to get straight stuck into dealing and handling pressure. One of the things that we definitely have to face, regardless of who you are, where you live, what you do, is some form of pressure. For example, if you're in education, if you're at uni, if you're at college, at some point or another, you'll be under pressure to deliver coursework, dissertation, homework, whatever it may be, and that feeling is never entirely pleasant. If you're, for example, in your career, in a job, you may have deliverables, you may have deadlines, clients that you have to sign on by a particular date. And again, that can feel quite intense. Then there are other types of pressures that you may have to deal with on a day-to-day basis in your life, like pressure from your family, pressure within your home, just different things that kind of push at you. So, if you've arrived from planet Mars and you have no clue what pressure is, essentially it's that feeling you have when something needs to get done or something needs to be achieved, typically within a certain space of time, and it begins to feel like you don't have the variables or you just don't have enough time. Usually the pressure comes with a time condition to get that thing done. So it's so normal, all of us have to go through it. All of us have to tackle it in some way, shape, form or another, but it's to do with, how well you handle pressure, how well you deal with it when time comes. And often it's pressure that will make the differentiator between where you're measured, or how you're measured, shall I say. So for example, how you handle pressure within your uni setting, within your college setting, will determine whether you get that D grade or whether you get that A grade or whether you get that distinction. Because being under pressure shows your true character. Being under pressure shows what you know, shows how you assimilate or or incorporate information that you have learned. So in the working place, again, a lot of working conditions come with targets, come with certain variables, and you have to achieve those within a certain time frame. So it might be a daily target, it might be a weekly target, monthly target, sometimes even yearly reviews, and you often have to prove yourself during those times as to how well you handle the tasks that were given to you, how well you were able to deal and manage those processes. So when you're able to essentially say that, yes, I can deal with pressure, it shows in your results. It doesn't just show in you saying it. It shows in the outcome of your results, whether you got good results, i.e. you met your targets, your clients are happy, or whether everything was a little bit wishy-washy or you missed the mark. At home, for example, you can be under pressure. Families will tell you that every day they're under pressure. Mums, dads, parents are under pressure to provide for their children, to make sure dinner is on the table, to make sure that everyone's pretty much happy. We're all running to a time scale. Everyone that does the school run can tell you that every morning is a pressure measuring point, to make sure that everyone gets ready on time, out of the door, to school on time, to work on time. Pressure is often a way of testing us. In the working place, you will get measured on a quarterly basis to see how you're performing, and being under pressure will show essentially what your character is. Do you sink or do you swim? And of course, we all hope that we swim. But how do we set ourselves up to be swimmers and not sinkers? That is the magic question. First of all, you need to ensure that you plan ahead, right? So that applies to every single one of those scenarios that I gave to you. Plan ahead, have an understanding of what it is that you're trying to achieve at the end of the day, and have a plan in place. If you don't plan, for example, for that piece of coursework, and you leave it till the very, last day before handing in, by all means, you are going to be under so much pressure. You feel the stress, and you may not even be able to provide, or be as adequate as you really are if you had given yourself a bit more time. So it's all about ensuring that you plan in advance, step by step. What is the process that I need to go through to get to the place that I'm trying to get to? So, when am I going to do this part? Give yourself the time variables. Provide yourself with ample time to get them done. Be realistic with your plan. Of course, if you plan to do something that you've been given 6 months to do, and you plan to do it all in the last 1 month, by all means, you're going to put yourself under unnecessary pressure. You understand? So it's important to ensure that you do assess realistically how these things are going to work out for you, how much time you want to dedicate to each thing, and how long you want to spend doing them. Then you also have to factor in perhaps elements that you might not have so much control over. So in some instances, say for example, you're doing a group project, that means that you're needing other people to get involved. If you're working in a project management space, if you're working in a business analysis space, you're going to have to work with other teams, you're going to have to work with other people. And if you don't plan in advance when those people are to come in and book that time well in advance, you are going to be under pressure when you leave it to the last minute and you find that those people are equally battling with things that they had prioritized on that list, and you are simply not a priority there. So factor in the variables that you might have less control over. So other people, other resources, things that you need to bring in at certain point in time that you might not be able to fully control. So plan, consider all the variables, and ensure that you have included all the things that you can't have control over. When you do all these things, when you ensure that these things are all accounted for, you will find that the pressure might niggle at you a little bit, but it's nowhere gonna be as stressful and as painstaking as it would be if you just did everything sort of like, diving in head first without really thinking about it. So I'm sure a lot of you have been under pressure before, and it's not necessarily anything new to you. Some of you know how to cope perfectly well when you're under pressure. Perhaps some of you, it's a little bit more of a struggle, but I would say if you consider these 3 key areas, you will find that it's all going to be a lot more doable, a lot more tolerable for you to be able to achieve your targets and achieve your goals on time without feeling too much pressure and without underperforming. Okay, hope that's all clear for you. I'm going to move straight on to the next pressure subtopic that we're dealing with. I hope I'm not rushing through too much. I am very conscious that my kids are currently, one is sleeping, one is nice and quiet, and I'm just very conscious that might all change and then I'm gonna be under pressure. So I'm trying really hard to give you all the good, useful information I can as quickly and as best as I can. So yes, the next one that we want to be dealing with is societal pressure, right? It's a different type of pressure. This is not the sort of pressure that you'll be under, that is time bound, that you need to achieve a certain target, that's fully dependent on you. This is sort of pressures that we kind of see around us because maybe your friends are doing achieving certain goals, have hit certain milestones, and you are finding that you are behind. So then you start to put pressure on yourself. This can happen at every stage in your life and can apply to many situations. It can apply to the husband and wife who've been married for 5 years and have no children. Then they're going to be looking at what society is thinking about them. They might be looking at what their friends have achieved. Their friend that got married just last year already has a child. That's societal pressure that they then start to feel. This can happen within the working place where you see other people being promoted, where you see other people doing really well. The junior guy that just came in 2 years ago is now your manager, and that puts a certain type of pressure on you as well. But one of the biggest pressures that we are facing lately is what we are seeing on social media. Everywhere you turn, there's people flexing. There's young folks driving Porsches, Lamborghinis, flaunting money, flaunting wonderful clothing, and everyone seems to have a really beautifully put together. And then you're looking at yourself and you're like, what on earth is going on with me, and why do I not have myself so perfectly put together? And that puts a lot of pressure on you put a lot of pressure on yourself when you are faced with these situations. Again, that's societal pressure. It's what society seems to be expecting of you at this point in time or at this stage in your life that you feel you have not yet achieved. And society may well not be expecting that of you, but you kind of look at it from your perspective and you see people in perhaps your age group, people within your working space, people within your sort of your subgroupings, and you begin to feel the pressure that you haven't achieved that yet. People your age have bought a house and you are still renting. That's societal pressure. So it can come from so many angles, and you have to be so careful with what you allow to enter your mind space, basically, because the more you let in and the more you begin to let that thing pressurize you, the more you're susceptible to things like depression, to things like stress. You will start doing things that you don't know. Like what I'm always thinking, or what I always say is, you don't know what that other person has done to get to where they are today. You don't know whether those things are good things. You don't know whether they had a huge helping hand. You don't know who they know. You don't know what they've done. So to be looking at where someone else is at in life or what someone else is achieving and be using that as your measuring board is always going to be a dangerous thing to do. By all means, it's great to kind of like take motivation from other people, maybe your peers, and see, wow, this person's kind of done this and I feel motivated now. I think I can, have a go at it too. But it's a completely different story when you're looking at, the world through these Instagram tinted glasses, Facebook tinted glasses, TikTok tinted glasses, and you're thinking that that's the reality, and therefore you put this pressure, you feel this pressure from society to achieve the same thing when you have no bearings of what those people have had to do to get to where they are today. So you have to guard your mind space. You have to guard your heart. You have to be mindful of what you're kind of watching, what you're looking at, what you're following. And even if you are following these things, at least have an understanding that not everything you see glittering is gold. Like that saying is an old one, but it still stands. So not everyone that's showing off something or the other really has it that well put together. There are some people that they always smiling, always joking, always seem to be having a whale of a time, life and soul of the party. But when you really have a one-on-one with them, they are completely depressed. Completely depressed. And you cannot get them out of the hole that they're in. But yet, when the cameras turn on, it's all smiles, it's all perfection, it's all look at me living the life. And then you go and put yourself under a certain level of pressure, or put your spouse or your partner or your parents under a certain amount of pressure to help you achieve the same, when you don't know what price that person has had to pay to get to where they are. So let's be very mindful to not subscribe to societal pressure. And societal pressure, of course, also comes from the angle that other people come to you and ask you certain questions, so have you seen so-and-so? Do you know they built a house? Have you seen so-and-so? Do you know she's had her third kid now? Have you seen so-and-so? Do you know he's been promoted to head of that department? People have a tendency to maybe bring that to you, and then you have to, again, guard your mind space. Who are you letting into your space? What is it you're listening to? Who are you taking advice from? Are these people adding to you in a positive way, or are they just adding a whole bunch of stress to you? When that person leaves your presence, do you feel enriched or do you feel depleted? Those are really, really important things to consider. And most importantly, guard your mind space. You don't want anyone, it's literally like living in a house, right, that isn't burglar proofed. And then any thief, any robber can run in and out and take whatever they want out of there. You don't want your life to be that way. You want to ensure that your home, your mind is robust, and you're not just letting anyone come in and out, depositing and taking from it as they please. Okay? Perfect. So the final one we're going to look at is internal pressure. I've sort of covered many elements of internal pressure in that societal pressure, but that's the pressure that you feel that you put yourself under when you're thinking, am I a good enough parent? And I'm sure those of you who are parents can really, really subscribe to that, or you're thinking, am I doing enough in my working place? I don't seem to be making the progress that I had hoped to be making. Or you ask yourself, why is my marriage going this direction? Am I a terrible husband? Am I a terrible wife? Why am I not, in relationship terms, why am I not married? So then there's a lot of pressure that's coming all from the inside that you are placing upon yourself because you're thinking and mulling over these things. Generally speaking, I think it's good to every now and then ask yourself some of these questions, but it's all to do with how you're asking yourself the question and where you want the answer to that question to lead you. So if you're lamenting and if you're like, am I a good enough parent, and am I doing enough for my kids, and I feel so bad, and you're not going anywhere with that, and the answers that you sort of provide for yourself are not going to lead you to a better place, then you need to stop. But if you take the time, maybe at the end of every month or at the end of every 6 months, and you say, how good of a parent am I? That's a same question, but asked in a very different way that's going to produce very different answers. Am I doing what I need to do to get my kids where I want them to be, right? it's like, am I a good enough parent versus am I doing what I need to do to get my kids where they need to be? It's asking essentially the same thing, but the way your mind is going to process the answer for that question is very different. One is analytical. It's asking you to analyze where you're at. It's asking you to look at what you've done and what you can do to improve. The other is simply placing you in a dark space where you will eventually struggle to come out. Okay, so if you're asking yourself questions, it's, as I said, it's a good rule of thumb to ask yourself these questions from time to time. But is it coming from a place of a lamentation, or is it coming from a place of analysis, all designed to improve you and make yourself a better person? There are some things that are difficult. There are some questions that you can only ask God, and sometimes God is not giving you the answer you want to hear. I'm thinking about the lady that's yet to be married, and has seen all her friends now married. I'm thinking about, the husband and wife that are waiting for a child, and it's that 5th year, it's that 10th year, and still, nothing. Those are difficult questions, and perhaps those are the ones that you don't want to be asking in a lamenting type of fashion. But those are questions that are for God. And he might not be answering you in the way you like, or you might not be listening in the way that he needs you to listen. So you have to sort of really be careful about what you're trying to get out of some of these questions you're asking, because ultimately, otherwise, you're going to put yourself under a certain level of pressure that the pressure is going to be so tough that you're stuck under it. You understand? You'll find it difficult to come out of it. So the way I would say to deal with that is take stock, ask yourself certain questions that help you to analyze where you're at in life. Be careful with how you're asking yourself the questions. Like I already explained, your brain will process it in a different way depending on how you're asking yourself that question. Some things need you to reach out to other people. So for example, in that business sense, you might not be where you want to be at because it requires you to kind of bring someone else on board. It requires you to kind of seek help or seek resources from elsewhere. So if you keep asking yourself the question and you're not taking the necessary sorry, my daughter's beginning to distract me. If you're not taking the necessary actions to help you get to the answers or get to the solutions you need, you'll be under pressure, by all means. But ask yourself the question. I would even ask you to go a step further and have a pen and paper handy. And when you ask that question, think about it analytically and begin to write down all the pros, all the cons, all the things you already have, the tools you already have available, all the tools you need. Begin to put timelines, just like in the handling general pressures. Begin to put timelines to it so you know what you need to do to achieve certain goals. Zamora, you need to lower that. It's too loud. Sorry. So, sorry about that. So, that's basically really all of it in a nutshell. Pressure comes, it goes. It's part and parcel of the life that we live in. Some of us feel it more than others. Some of us are more susceptible to pressure on a day-to-day basis than others. And some of us may, hardly have to experience pressure at all. It just depends on maybe your lifestyle, what you've subscribed to in life, how you've prepared yourself. But one of the biggest things that I really kind of want to leave us with is that the saying goes, if you fail to prepare, you prepare to fail. So in all of these different aspects, whether it be in your career, whether it be in your education, whether it be in your personal life, you need to have a sense of a plan. Not everything's always going to go according to plan, but you have to have an understanding of what you want in life. For example, when we were talking about societal pressure, someone who knows what they want in life is able to very quickly rebuff someone who comes to them and says, so-and-so has done this and so-and-so has done that. It's very easy to say, well, I'm really happy for so-and-so, but my journey is different. You understand? so and so has bought a house, yada yada yada. At 22, this person's already driving this kind of car. That's great for that person, but that's not quite what my plan is. If you have a plan for your life, you are very confident in providing that sort of answer. But if you don't really have a plan and you're sort of going with the wind, then everything will essentially affect you. You see this person doing this, you're like, how did they do it? I want me a piece of that. You see that person doing this and you're thinking, let me scramble and get a piece of that. You're here, you're there, you're everywhere except where you really need to be. And everything is just putting a lot of pressure on you, and it's not a great way to live. Okay, so have a plan for the big things, have a plan for the smaller things. Do not allow social media life to influence where you're trying to get to in life, because you will get misinformed. You'll be barking up the wrong tree. A lot of people who are doing a lot of amazing things out there is not exactly as you see it. People are being sponsored and promoted and paid to briefly show a certain lifestyle, but that is not the lifestyle that they're genuinely living on a day-to-day basis. So do not allow things like that to fool you. And then finally, internal pressures. Make sure you flip that around if you're dealing with that on a constant basis. Instead of lamenting, be analytical, and be analytical to get the right sorts of results in your questioning. So I hope that's been really helpful for you. I hope that I've done the topic pressure enough justice, and that I've tackled it in various angles that is going to be helpful and useful to you. We've come to that point in time where I need to ask you for a little favor, and that is to say, if you are not already following Impart and Impact, kindly do so. You can find us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, right? Yes, and I think on LinkedIn as well, if you're interested. If you are a man, if you're a woman, you want to definitely be following Atana Women. If you're a man, you want to be following Atana Men. Honestly, I know I keep saying it, but there's some really wonderful things cooking up, and you don't want to miss the boat. So make sure you hit that follow button for those pages now. So you don't have to miss out. If you're into cooking, inspiration, then you want to follow Belinda Boadu Cooking. And if you're into your fashionables, your accessories, your clothing, Afrocentric style, then you want to be following Bella's Blessing. But I really hope you enjoyed our session today, and I'm thoroughly looking forward to another session with you all. Fingers crossed soon. Until then, don't let the pressure, kill you. Don't let the pressure surmount to an unsurmountable point. Rather, let that pressure refine you and beautify you, and make sure you come out as excellently as you possibly can. That's my cue from the kids. So I'm gonna have to love you and leave you there. Ciao.